little smoky barbecue with some blackberry pie. This is a mad wreck right here, guys. But, you know, like I said, I was excited. I've had the 14, the 15, the 16, and we back, and we back, and we back. Guys.
The liquid culture.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for being here with me again on another episode of The Liquid Culture. Today, quick ep on New World Syrah. I wanted to tie a little bow on a big project that I put on the website in regard to a Syrah-specific region, the Northern Rhone, in the Old World. Talked a lot about the Syrah-based wines there. Very in-depth, I think, at least, you know, in general, very in-depth. Today, wanted to provide a counterpart for that. So you hear a lot in wine, you talk about Old World versus New World. What does that mean? We can get into that a little bit today. Already put the Old World up, so if you haven't watched the Old World Syrah, which would be my Northern Rhone project on the site, I would probably watch that one first so that you can get an idea as to where kind of Syrah's birthplace is, so to speak, and what it kind of looks like in regard to Old World versions, because today we're doing the New World versions, the new kids on the block. Gonna see what those are all about, see how they compare, contrast against those Old World examples. But first, wanna give a little shout out. My boys at Apex Coffee Roasters. Guys, this is the shit right here. And this is not some kind of sponsored, paid for thing. I got my shipment. I am part of their subscription club. I got my shipment from these guys in today, which actually they sent me 2 bags because they were one of the sponsors for the barista, the World Barista competition, and they were a little bit behind on sending out the coffee. So guys down in Waco, Apex Coffee Roasters, wanted to give a shout out to these guys strictly because I got my coffee in today and I'm stoked about it. So if you guys are looking for really killer, especially the African coffees, we got, what was that? That was the Kenyan. Here's the Ethiopian. These guys really know how to do it. Really delicious coffee. I might even do a video on a tasting of Apex coffees just because they're so good, and maybe like a single varietal coffee side by side or something like that. I don't know, but Apex, check them out. Good stuff. Okay, so New World Syrah. Talk about Old World Syrah. What do we get from Old World Syrah, especially in the Northern Rhone, which is where you see it as either a single varietal or as a predominant part of a blend with a little bit of white wine mixed in. In the Southern Rhone, Syrah comes in as a blending grape, as well as in places like California, you see it blended as well as part of a GSM. It's the S in the GSM. That's where you see it a little bit more frequently in the New World as well. But in the Old World, what you have are expressions of Syrah. They do still have that peppery thing going on with them. They still have that blackberry, that black fruit thing going on, but they're a little bit more elegant. They have some of those white flower things coming through, those red flowers, those violets, those barbecue-y kind of game meat, smoky things happening. They're a little bit more earthy in the Old World. A little more elegant at times, but can still be very powerful, especially from certain producers and in certain sub-region appellations. In the New World, what you find very frequently, big fruit bomb, powerful, sometimes can be slightly sweet with a little residual sugar, or more so generally over ripeness. So in general, the way you can kind of break it down is, now there are exceptions to every rule, but when you talk about Old World versus New World, a lot of times the way that you can really break that down is by saying that the Old World is relatively a cooler growing wine regions fall into that Old World category, whereas in the New World, generally warmer regions. So the fruit has a much more ripe characteristic characteristic, a much more powerful, kind of bold, and again, sometimes leading towards that slightly sweet kind of thing, which is generally comes from that really overripe fruit. So, New World wine, let's just say countries, the United States, obviously, New World, Australia, New World. So today, we are going to talk about Syrah from both of those countries. And what we're going to, I think, see in contrast with the Northern Rhone project, the Old World, is some probably juicier, more fruit-forward expressions of Syrah. So we'll see. We'll see what we've got. So we are going to start, guys, with a country. So let's talk Australia. Let's talk about one of the first kind of, as we start becoming more knowledgeable about wine, one of those fun facts that we hear a lot is, well, I see Shiraz all the time. What's that all about? I see it, Australian Shiraz. Well, one of the things that we learn early on is that Shiraz is just the Australian term for Syrah. Same grape, just a slightly different name for it. So what we've got here is a wine. It's from a winery or winemakers. Some Young Punks is the name of it. You can see pretty interesting label. Naked on Roller Skates. This is their 2016 Shiraz Mataro blend. Mataro is, you probably have also seen Mataro before. It is actually just another term for Mourvedre. In Australia, they like to use some different terms. So 90% Shiraz, Australia, Shiraz, 90% Shiraz, and 10% Mataro on this. It's from McLaren Vale, who's like the big dog Shiraz, like Shiraz is king, and the McLaren Vale, you can kind of think of that as like Malbec in Mendoza, like that's what Mendoza, Argentina is known for, is Malbec. In McLaren Vale, Australia, you're looking at Shiraz as king. Now, this is down in South Australia, which again is one of the hubs of wine production in that country. This is a wine that is produced by, again, Some Young Punks. This is a very kind of avant-garde, renegade winery there in McLaren Vale. Actually heard about these guys on an episode of The Wine Show on Hulu. Very interesting. They went down and did a little bit of work with those guys, introduced us to their wines a little bit there. That's where I heard of these guys. Bought these wines online, or well, this wine, and I got another one of their wines, but I wanted to go with this one because it's primarily Shiraz. So I want to make sure that we're really picking up that Shiraz Syrah characteristic with wines that are made up predominantly of that grape. Really nice little kind of peppery nose here. Color's really nice and dark. Really purpley purple, which is very common with Shiraz. Very purpley purple. Really nice intensity on the nose here. I mean, it's earthy. I was just talking about the kind of compare contrast with Old World versus New World, and was saying generally in the Old World you get those earthier expressions. The New World you get those fruitier expressions. This has some of that smoky barbecue thing going on, which I'm really amped up about right now. A little smoky barbecue with some blackberry pie. Maybe like a blackberry cobbler. I don't know if anybody really makes blackberry pie, but blackberry cobbler. Really nice, a little herbaceous quality to it as well. A little grassy note. Maybe even some tea, like a black tea. God, maybe even a little of that olive that's like really kind of like you only get that with like Old World style Syrah. I'm getting a little bit of that black olive here too. Now these wines all went through the bubbler, aerator, decanter deal. Just wanted to rip them through that real quick, but they haven't spent a lot of time getting a ton of oxygen. So really enjoying the nose on this just from the get. Wow, that's really nice. I have never had this wine before. Like I said, just found out about these guys very recently. Just got this bottle in very recently. $25 bottle here, and it's bringing some heat, guys. This wine here is bringing a little bit of heat. Really, really powerful, floral, meaty, gamey, juicy nose. And on the palate, it's got a beautiful balance of acidity and tannin. The tannin isn't over the top for such a young version of Syrahs. Guys, I'm excited. This is a mad wreck right here, guys. Mad wreck. 25 bucks for this, and this thing is bringing serious heat. Australia has gotten a bad rap, I think, for bringing these really cheap yellowtail, these really cheap, really extracted, juicy fruit bomb things with like a bunch of maybe at times even like artificial oak characteristics to them, just in trying to like meet this kind of palate, this mass appeal palate on a cheap scale. Excuse me, on a budget. Power wines on a budget, I guess. This is really elegant, but also powerful. A lot of earthy, old world qualities going on with this wine. 14.5 alcohol. It's got the body. It's got the lingering finish here. Not cloying though. None of that residual kind of sugar vibe to it. I'm really enjoying this wine, guys. Really, really enjoying this wine. And how can you not like this label? Check it out one more time. Look at that. I mean, kind of that fun, old school kind of Pulp Fiction pinup kind of vibes to it. Love it. Always love seeing cool stuff, vintage kind of throwback stuff like that. Man, this is good. Serious recommendation on the Some Young Punks Shiraz Mataro blend, guys. 25 bucks. Get online, find where you can buy some of this and buy some. It is very tasty. I mean, easily just a quaffable wine, but also a food pairing wine. Can be a very serious food pairing wine, I think, when we decant this for a little bit longer. I mean, the structure is really nice. I think it could open up and continue to develop some really nice flavor profiles. I'm actually thinking last night's dinner, I had a braised lamb shank and like a curry with some jasmine rice, and that I think would be perfect to go with this. Peppery, unctuous, herbaceous, spicy, gamey, floral, fruit. It's got all of it for 25 bucks. I'm stoked on this wine, guys, as you can probably tell. Up next, Arno Roberts. So we're gonna crank it up here in terms of price point and kind of, you know, I was gonna say notoriety, but I don't think I want to say notoriety because Arno Roberts, I know them. Really what you've got is this, you've got this nice partnership that took place between two guys who have been in the wine industry. Back in 2003, you had Duncan Arno Myers, who was a winemaking assistant for Pax Mall of Pax and Wingap Wines, and then he partnered with a friend of his, Nathan Roberts, who is a cooper. Every barrel that their wine goes into is made on site by Nathan Roberts, and they've kind of developed this cult following in this kind of minimalist natural wine making world. And I first tried Arno Roberts wines, I want to say 2 years ago. First tried their wines. I've had the I want to say the 14, 15, and 16 vintage of this wine. We're doing their 2017 Sonoma Coast Syrah. So let's take a step back here 1 second and talk a little bit about climates and planting. So if you want to think overall in terms of Syrah worldwide, where is it most widely planted? So you've got France, of course, being the number one. I mean, that's the Northern Rhone and Southern Rhone. That's where a lot of Syrah is planted. You've got about 170,000 acres of vines, of Syrah vines planted in France. And Australia, big time player, 100,000. So for Australia being a new world kind of country in the wine scene, 100,000, they're kind of right on France's trail. In America, small player. We've got about 20,000 acres of Syrah under vine. This is of course from America, Sonoma Coast. Let's talk a little bit about climate. So I said earlier on in the video, Old World, generally considered cooler climate growing regions. New World, warmer climate growing regions. I would say of these three, Australia on average general kind of idea for temperatures probably going to be the warmest, but because it's Southern Australia, you've got maritime influences coming in to cool things down. Sonoma Coast, kind of the same thing. We're there on the coast, so Sonoma Coast is right between kind of the Pacific Ocean and Napa Valley. So you've got a kind of relatively cooler growing climate than, say, Napa Valley, because you've got that maritime influence coming in. And then Washington State, which will be the third wine that we taste, they do have generally hotter summers, but I would say overall average temperature is slightly cooler still than Sonoma County or Sonoma Coast region. So we'll get a little bit into Washington when we get to that. But so I just wanted to give you a slight idea as to what we're talking about worldwide. So again, I've had the 14, 15, 16 vintages of this Sonoma Coast Syrah from Arno Roberts. I have not tasted the 17 yet. I'm excited to taste it. The 14, 15, 16 have all been incredible vintages. Really enjoyed them. And also a really, really nice value play at a restaurant. Let me repeat that. Value play at a restaurant. Where I first started getting into this Arno Roberts Syrah was I was seeing it popping up on restaurant menus for like minimal markup, guys, minimal. I mean, this is a $45 bottle. You can find the 15 vintage online right now for 45 bucks. I was seeing it on restaurant menus for like 60, 65. And for a restaurant markup, that's nothing, guys. That's nothing. So in the past, other vintages of this wine have been nice value plays at restaurants. Let's see if the 17 lives up to the hype. This one might need a little bit more time to open up. It certainly is not bringing as much power on the nose as the Naked on roller skates did. But also, I mean, just before I dive in, to give a little bit of a contrast here, we've got a wine with the Arno Roberts is made in a little bit more of a restrained style. The alcohol on it, I believe, is much, much lower, 12.7 in comparison to the 14.5. This one, it's throwing me off a little bit because this one has a little bit on the nose of that, almost that like kind of nail polish thing on the nose, which is throwing me off a little bit. I'm thinking maybe it just needs to gas off. And it's like underripe black fruits. It's not red fruits. It's not going that route. It still is that black fruit thing that you get with Syrah. But it's almost like underripe, and even more kind of almost like blueberry. Kind of that middle ground between the red and the black fruits there. Structure's nice. It has a really quick finish. I could see this wine opening up and being better. The tannin's is a little sharp. Finish is short, but it's got a good palate. I would probably never call this Syrah. It might be a little young. It might be 2017. I may have jumped the gun opening this bottle here, but you know, like I said, I was excited. I've had the 14, the 15, the 16, and I think I probably am a little early, jumped the gun a little bit opening the 17. I think it's a little young. I think it needs to continue to get some age in the bottle. It's got some good things underneath, but this tannin is really kind of keeping me from being able to taste them. Yeah, it could be really supple eventually. I can tell on the mid palate, it's really nice and creamy, but all over the front, I've got strong tannin right now, and I can't really get anything off of the palate. So, if you've got a 2017 bottle of Arno Robert Sonoma Coast Syrah, I would recommend holding on to it for at least another year before opening it, especially at 45 bucks. I'm very disappointed in myself for opening this bottle because I'm hoping maybe, like I said, I'll decant it a little further. Hopefully over the next couple of days, maybe it'll continue the tannin will soften up and I'll be able to taste some better things. But I guess that would be my rec on the Arno Robert Syrah. Either very long-term decant, I'll follow up with that on the tasting notes in the write-up, or hold on to this bottle for another year plus. Moving on. Let's get a quick rinse here. Man, disappointment of the day, guys. I was jacked up about getting that Apex coffee delivery. Got my Los Juarez wines in from California. Probably gonna do a Los Juarez on the show. Stoked on that, but man, what a Debbie Downer. The 17 Arno Roberts opening it too soon. Not cool. Not cool, guys. All right, let's move past it. Let's move past it here. Washington State. Let's go. L'École, Columbia Valley, 2014 Syrah. This is so they have an estate Syrah. This is a Syrah that is a mixture of different vineyard sites all over the Columbia Valley, which is I mean, to just say Columbia Valley in general is kind of a very mass generalization. The Columbia Valley is the largest wine region in Washington State, so large in fact that a portion of it even sinks down into Oregon, kind of encroaches on Oregon a little bit. So Columbia Valley, of course, it's a large region made up of other sub-AVAs, but this is just their generic kind of Columbia Valley offering from L'École. This was a winery that was put on to me by a friend of mine who is a long-term wine geek, big-time wine enthusiast, and he put me on to this vineyard or this winery, and really enjoyed this Syrah when I tasted it with him. Wanted to do it on the video here to bring a little Washington perspective to the panel. Back to having a really nice nose. Sorry again, Arno. I'm pissed. Like, I'm really pissed. You didn't have a great nose on me. You're too young. That's okay. We'll revisit it another time. Columbia Valley coming in hot on the nose here, guys. Really nice. We've got a blend on this one, much like the first wine. We've got a blend here, 80% Syrah, 20% Grenache. Columbia Valley, Washington State, big time Syrah producer, whereas with the Arno Roberts, you know, Sonoma Coast, that's generally Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. With the Columbia Valley, we're looking at an area that is also more well known for Syrah production. And it's just got a really, really nice nose, guys. Really nice. We're back into that blackberry. We're back into that dark fruit, that jammy thing. The thing that I've really enjoyed about all three of these wines, though, is not a ton of oak characteristic coming in and covering up the really nice fruit and earth components on any of these wines. Really no oak characteristic whatsoever. Yeah, this one's just like almost straight black fruits, plummy, blackberry. This one doesn't really have a lot. There's a little bit of that peppery kind of peppery spice thing, but it smells really supple and smooth. And we back, and we back, and we back. Guys, awesome. Another awesome Syrah, 27 bucks. The two low price dogs here, they're the winners today. The two low pricers, these guys, I mean, they're bringing a lot of good heat for a cheap price. You can find the, I think again, you have to go with the 15 on this one online. You can find it 27 bucks. It's not as earthy and complex, I think, as the Australian effort. But in terms of just overall mouthfeel, supple texture, it's not everything I want with Syrah. It's not all of it, but it's the fruit, kind of the fruit version. I'm actually really curious. I would love to try their estate Syrah and see if it brings any more characteristic to the plate. This one being kind of a blend of vineyard sites, I don't think you're really feeling any sort of specific terroir. You're really kind of just getting a, in general, Columbia Valley, Washington State Syrah. But another great value play here, guys. There's a little chocolate. A little like milk chocolate, not dark chocolate, like creamy milk chocolate on the palate. Tannins in that kind of medium to medium plus area. Maybe not even medium plus, like medium leaning towards medium plus. Acidity's nice, real round. I think this is a crowd pleaser wine for sure. 27 bones, buy 3 or 4 bottles of it and put it on the counter if you're having people over for a little going away party or a little baby shower or something like that. Really enjoyable wine. All right, guys. 2 winners. I would say oldest of the New World in Australia, kind of the big dog for kind of that Shiraz production. They've been doing it really well for a while. And then we've got Washington State, kind of a lesser known wine, I guess, state, Columbia Valley wine region. A lot of people in the U.S. think about California. They don't think about Washington all that often. Oregon even kind of overshadows Washington from time to time with their Pinot Noirs. But I think a really nice effort on this Syrah out of Washington and an incredible effort out of Australia. McLaren Vale, Shiraz Mataro blend, Some Young Punks Winery. Naked on roller skates, definitely a winner. Search out both of these wines, pick you up a couple of bottles, and enjoy. Thanks a lot for being here with me today, guys. Appreciate it. Liquid Culture, Mitchell Chirac. We'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.